morning, dear people of the internet, and welcome to the tangled mess that can be the yarn community every now and then. Every time I opened Instagram or TikTok or Reddit over the past few weeks while I was doing other things, I thought, oh boy, not again, because there were a lot of yarn drama situations going around, and today we're going to talk about 3 of them, all yarn store drama related kind of situations. And we are doing this to see how we can avoid these situations in the future, both on a personal level and on a yarn community general level. Before we get into all of that, I have a very short public service announcement for you. I'm an art school and I have this very delusional plan of this channel supporting me through art school and beyond that, and you can help me with that for free by subscribing and watching my videos if you like them, of course. So I would appreciate that a lot, so thank you. Now let's get started. I feel like knitters and crocheters alike spend a lot of time looking for the perfect knitting needles or perfect crochet hook, which makes a lot of sense because we spend a lot of time doing our craft, and the last thing you want if you're crocheting for hours is having a squeaky hook, or if you're knitting having your needles poke in your body somewhere because they're too long. So it makes sense that we are looking for the perfect needles and hooks all the time. That also means that it's very exciting when a new set that is seemingly perfect comes along, and especially when it's cheaper than the previous one, because those perfect, very great sets are often quite expensive. Like this one.
I'm gonna go as far as saying that these might just be better than Chiagu. I said it and I'm standing behind it. I posted a video last week joking around saying that these could be the Birkin of interchangeable needle sets, and after using them for the past 2 weeks, I still agree with that. I'm gonna do a whole separate video reviewing these. I'm already gonna tell you right now, I'm obsessed with them and I love them so much. But like going into different details about needle size and colorways and all the little accessories that come with it. But there are 3 reasons that I really think that these are better than Chiagu. Number 1 being this comes with 14 needle sizes. Chiagu comes with 13. The second reason being that the cords, right off the bat, you get stainless steel swivel cords that are color coded. They are each coated in a plastic coating, and each one is a different color, which is genius. I know Chiagu sells separate swivel cords that you can buy, but with the set that you see online that everyone gets, those cords don't swivel. And the last reason being that this is literally cheaper than Chiagu. Now this is still expensive. It's an interchangeable metal needle set, but the fact that it's cheaper and it gives you 1 extra needle size and it gives you these fancy little cords right from the bat, I think that's insane.
This looks like your normal everyday affiliate ad of someone actually liking the product that they are promoting, which is fine enough, but I came across this post on Reddit. I had this TikTok content creator, Pearl Wise Coffee, come up on my For You page multiple times selling these Atelier Yarns needles. I thought they looked really cute, and she's always saying they're sold out, but I already own Chiagos, so I never looked into them. I don't know what Chiagos are. I don't think they are big in my country, and I don't knit a lot, so I don't have a lot of knitting needles. But apparently they're very good. I was really curious, so I watched all of it and then instantly recognized the needles. They were exactly the same as the needles I already own. The video just talked about how these premium quality needles are life-changing and better than the Chiago needles. She sells them for $180 on their page, and these needles go for around $40 on Temu. Sometimes they're even around $20. I was able to find the exact same ones with the exact same case. I'm completely mind blown about this. All her content is her talking about these are the next Chiago needles. She even made a YouTube video about this. Here's the link. So far no one has called her out and she deleted my comment, so I figured I'd go on Reddit. Hopefully she stops scamming people out of their money. I attached photos of everything. Hopefully many people see this and call her out. And if you think Temu is ripping off Atelier Yarns, no, I'm so sorry, but that's not true. They are the exact same ones from Temu. Atelier Yarns just bought these from China and attached a logo. Take a look at everything, do a reverse image search, you will find the other cases. Take a look at the needles, the accessories, they are all the same. The problem is that many people think exactly that. They are knocking off Atelier Yarns, but Atelier Yarns doesn't manufacture them. As I said, they just buy them. Almost everything comes from China, it's the same manufacturer. In a comment, the OP of this post said that Atelier Yarns has confirmed using the same manufacturer as the needles on Temu as well. So that is suspicious, at the very least. I think we all know that a lot of web shops and real life stores sell goods that they buy from countries with cheap labor costs and then sell them at a 1,000,000% markup. I think that's pretty common. I think that a lot of people are mad about expectations in this case. This needle set is very expensive, so you expect a certain quality, and Atelier Yarns presents themselves as a luxury yarn store, which also sets certain expectations. Contrary to what I often hear, products at China don't have to have low quality. People love to say cheap Chinese quality, but the quality of Chinese products can be very good. It doesn't have everything to do with the country that the product is from. It has a lot to do with a lot of different things. So it doesn't mean that it's cheap quality or bad quality if it is from China necessarily. I see so many product designers on the internet caring a lot about the quality of their work and still manufacturing their stuff in China. Sometimes these people even visit the factories that they're manufacturing their stuff at to check the quality and make sure that the laborers do their work in honest and good conditions. So it doesn't have to be bad necessarily. However, if you do find a product on Temu which is the exact same with the exact same manufacturer as the luxury brand that you saw somewhere else, it is definitely a red flag. And that is because if Temu or whatever website was selling the exact same design and stealing it, it would be a legal issue. So it would make sense in this case that Atelier Yarns is indeed ordering the product from a website like Alibaba and then slapping their own label on it, because it has the same manufacturer and because it's the exact same design. It's always sad to see companies that seemingly care about their customers and the quality of their products and whatever do stuff like this, because you can design your own needle set and get it manufactured yourself and have the thing really be from your own brand, or you can just not do anything like that at all, just buy the things from another brand or ordering them like this, but don't pretend like it's your own and then it isn't. Like, you slapped your own brand on it. I'm not even sure if that's legal, but I don't know. It happens a lot, but it's still sad. And to avoid this, you can, if you're a brand, just not do this. And if you're a customer, do a reverse image search if you're buying something that is supposedly a luxury brand, to avoid getting something like this. Check where it's manufactured and everything. It is a little bit of extra work and that's annoying, but I think it's very worth it. Yarn stores often have a big influence in the community that they're in, not only with the products that they sell, but also on a personal level. An example of this is Stephen West from the yarn store Stephen and Penelope in Amsterdam, which I somehow have not been to yet. Anyhow, back in 2023, Stephen hosted a mystery knit-along. If you don't know what it is, a mystery knit-along is a process where you buy a pattern, but you don't know what pattern you're buying. And then lots of other people buy this pattern as well. And every week or every month or every so often, you get a part of the pattern that you then can make for that period. So you're all making the same thing for a period of time. And then in the end, you end up with a surprise project that you made. The mystery knit-along that Stephen West hosted in 2023 ended up being this shawl. Many people saw a swastika in this design and critiqued this, of course, which makes a lot of sense. Stephen West said that he did not notice, and he eventually asked people not to make this and wear this anymore and change the pattern. So he did something about that. And to be honest, even though that I can see the connection and it's definitely wrong, I can also see how this mistake can be made. I think it's very clear that the intention here was just to make a nice pattern and it accidentally ended up being this, which obviously is bad. But I can see how this mistake was made. And in this situation, I would definitely give him the benefit of the doubt, especially since he did something about it. However, I would not be telling you all of this if this was not relevant today, of course. A little while ago, Stephen West was a guest on a podcast. This podcast was hosted by Neil James, a guy who runs a seemingly far-right knitting magazine online that you can read for free. Well, seemingly, he is so open about being far right that it's truly cringe. I took one for the team and decided to scroll through one of the magazines to see how bad it really is and everything, which I immediately regretted because of the many ads on this website, and I did not want to support them, and I did anyway. So here are some things that I noticed so you don't have to look it up for yourself. I will show you 3 little things. First, there was an event promoted in the magazine hosted by a team called Politically Incorrect Knitters, a group of people who have this logo. They talk far-right politics on their knitting podcast, and they also talk about knitting. I think this is a perfect example of people trying to own the critique that people give them, and then it's turning out to be very cringe. They are politically incorrect, according to my opinion, but it's still an opinion, but I still really think that they are. I think they're actually just making a fool of themselves by saying that they're against the climate change agenda, for example. That's making a fool of yourself. There is no agenda, just science. Secondly, there is a section in the magazine called Mansplaining with Levi, which is just a guy trying to guess knitting terms. This section really shows that the people who wrote this don't have any clue what the term mansplaining actually means, because this is not mansplaining. So here is the Cambridge definition of mansplaining: the act of explaining something to someone in a way that suggests they are stupid, used especially when a man explains something to a woman that she already knows. There's nothing of that going on here. It's again sort of reclaiming a term, but not really, and making a fool of yourself. To make it worse, this Levi guy thought that the Chinese waitress custom is a cheap yarn build. At the very least, that is horribly stereotyping, and it's probably maybe also racist, but I cannot decide that myself. But it sounds racist in a way, you know what I mean? It's at least just bad. For those of you who don't know, like I didn't know what the Chinese waitress custom meant before I saw this, because again, I don't knit a lot. It's the casting on that you can do with a needle and a crochet hook, and it causes a very sturdy cast on of your knitting work, so that's great. The last thing that caught my eye during my 3-minute scrolls through this magazine issue was a mega call that they somehow mailed to Trump or whatever, or someone did, and there was an article about it, and then they got a reaction or something like that. If you were not sure yet of the stance of these people, you are now. It says it pretty clear right there. To be clear, even though I wholeheartedly disagree with this stance, and I think it's a harmful stance to have against literally just humanity, you are allowed to have your own opinion. You are even allowed to share your own opinion. That I have an issue with how that's done and the opinion itself here is not the problem right here. However, there is a boundary that is crossed here, which is this Neil James character calling himself the Niddler in his Instagram bio, which is a reference to the dictator that was Germany's guy in the 40s. So that's a boundary that's crossed. Like, that's again a critique that is owned in a way, and then he uses it on himself, but it's actually just really, really, really bad. But the point is that this was not very hard to find. It took me a few minutes to find all of this, and it was kind of hard to find this Neil James guy because he doesn't have a lot of followers and his magazine is not everywhere, having its own account and everything, and yet I found it within minutes. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And it's very easy to see the stance of this guy and how he's presenting that to the outside world. Again, it's besides the point what I think of this guy, but let me assure you that I think it's very bad and I would not want to talk to this guy if I saw him. However, I'm very bad with facial recognition, so if I would find him anywhere, I would probably talk with him, but then also if I knew who he was, I wouldn't. So it's kind of surprising that you can appear on his podcast without knowing who this guy is, or what his thoughts are, or what his thing is, because being far right is his entire stick on his personal Instagram account, and that's the only open Instagram account of this guy that I could find. However, I'm now going to read you Stephen West's apology, because he did apologize for this. I've heard the call from people wanting me to clarify my position on the right-wing knitter I allowed to interview me this past weekend. This man is vile. His posts and belief are outright lies and propaganda, and the harm he caused people in our community makes me deeply ashamed. I didn't know who he was when he approached me at my booth at Textile in Manchester. When he emailed me requesting an interview, he shared his YouTube channel and the Shauna Stitches social media, which is another person that was also in this podcast interview. Neither of which showed the deeply hateful content I have since found on his personal profiles. But that's exactly the point. All it took was a basic search to find his bigoted posts, and particularly his harassment of women of color in our community. I should have done that minimum due diligence. I didn't, and I am ashamed of the association I allowed as a result. This was irresponsible, and I apologize for the harm it caused, especially to those who have been directly targeted by his behavior. I clearly haven't been vocal enough about where I stand politically and socially. If I had been, this man would never have felt comfortable approaching me in the first place. Silence on these issues is not neutrality. It creates space for exactly this kind of assumption. Let me be clear. There's no place for racism, sexism, homophobia, or transphobia in our community. I also want to apologize sincerely to Malia and to my staff at West Knits and Stephen and Penelope. I caused this. The stress and fallout this created for all of you was unfair, and I'm truly sorry for it. I spent this past weekend reading your messages, posts, and emails. I understand the serious weight of this mistake. As someone with influence in this community, I have a responsibility to be far more careful about who I appear with and what that communicates. I left the comments open, but I will not tolerate any hate speech. Please don't defend me. Comments with blind support for me that minimize my actions may be deleted. I made this mistake, I own it, and I'm truly sorry. My first reaction to this apology was, at least he takes some responsibility. Because so many people on the internet will never take responsibility for their actions and just either ignore it or, even worse, delete comments or negative things said about them that are truly like genuine critique that should be looked at, like this was. So I think that's a good thing. I read somewhere else that Stephen has allegedly asked Neil James to take down the video, which he has not done yet, but at least it seems like he's really trying to do something about it and take some accountability for his actions, as I said. Since this is the second time that something like this has happened with this guy, I'm not really sure if the benefit of the doubt is really warranted in this case, to be honest. On one hand, the situation is completely different, but also it's again something to do with anti-Semitism specifically. So I'm not really sure, like, calling yourself the Nittler is anti-Semitic, period. So I'm not really sure if giving this guy a third chance is really the right response here. I do find the 2023 thing a more forgivable mistake because I can understand how that happened, but if you're collaborating with someone, you should really do your research. I think it is worth it to wait and see if Steven starts posting more about his own views in a productive way and starts, I don't know, helping people in a way. There might be space for a redemption arc, but it needs to happen. Like, this apology was not the redemption arc, although it's a very small first step, I would say. But I'm happy at least he takes responsibility for his actions and asks people not to just fully defend him. That's great. He did post about the situation in Minnesota earlier this year, and he did take a stand against ICE. So that's a thing. The lesson here is that you should look into everyone that you're working with or working for if you have a choice, and Stephen definitely had a choice. Like, I know that you cannot always choose your employers and whatever, but in this case you should absolutely do your research, and he didn't, but he took responsibility for it, but it's still very bad. The last case we absolutely have to talk about today is the Hobbii situation. This Danish yarn shop posted something on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and they managed to make their entire customer base mad, or at least a big part of it, so that's a problem. This is Hobbie's second mishap over the last 6 months, and a few months ago I already talked about how they made some mistakes regarding their yearly advent calendar and then just did not talk to anyone about it and did not want any critique about that. So that was a problem, but now we have this new thing. So let's read this LinkedIn post. Let's be honest, nobody has 100% control over AI. Is this image AI? No doubt about it. There's an image under it, and it's just the guy holding a sign about the meeting, so now we know. At Hobbii, we use AI a lot. It has clear perks, like saving our tech team from long, awkward photo shoots. Even if the consequence is a photo that looks a bit more staged than casual, it hopefully gets the job done. I know that there are plenty of people out there who would love a job like this, doing the technical part of photo shoots, and have no issue about it. Using AI is not the solution there, but okay. Beyond the quick wins and fun images, there's a real conversation to be had. Right now, the industry narrative is based with convenience, faster, cheaper, automated, but at what cost? As we integrate LLMs deeper into our tech stacks, we are facing a shift that most corporate posts ignore: the steady trade-off between scaling and sovereignty. At Hobbii, we're constantly navigating three conflicting perspectives: the excitement of building and playing with new possibilities, the strategic concern over losing control of our own data foundations, and the human question: what does this do to our autonomy and how we develop knowledge? The rest of the post is inviting people to a panel where they talk about this. I think this is absolutely despicable. They are only really questioning the autonomy of their business in this post and not the real human side of everything. And I know that LinkedIn is a business platform and the human emotions about all of this are less important there. Maybe I'm not a lot on LinkedIn, but I think especially when you're yarn short, you should care about that. Their customers are mostly artists and crafters, and those are the people that I've heard most loudly being against generative AI. So why on earth would you do this? Especially if you're the biggest yarn store in the Northern Hemisphere, I feel like, or like the most famous or well-known one. Like, why on earth would you do all of this? Now, I have heard that Hobbii is not the small Danish business or small Danish business that it was before, and that they have sold their business in a way that I've heard words that tell me nothing because I'm not a business person, which is probably why they did this. But still, very bad. Why would you do this on your audience? It's also just incredibly weird to open a positive post about generative AI with a statement about how you cannot fully trust AI. Where's the logic in that? Don't use it then. Keep your integrity and move on. Don't generate images of the things that you sell to literal artists. It makes no sense to do that. I sort of understand on a conceptual level wanting to implement AI on the background to streamline your processes. But this is not in the background, this is very much on the foreground. Now, I've not seen any AI generated images on Hobbii social media yet. I did check. So maybe it's not that, maybe it's just the product pictures or whatever, but it's still very bad. Luckily, I have not seen a singular positive response to this, so maybe they will do something about it, but also it has been 2 weeks and they have not updated anything. Maybe they will just pretend that nothing happened, like the advent calendars, which we still have not heard anything about. I don't know. I don't really think anything is gonna happen. I think they're just going to go on with it and we'll have to deal with it or something. If you happen to be a capitalist corporation looking to streamline your business practices and wanting to avoid this kind of backlash, I have one simple advice for you. Know your customer base, at the very least. You don't do something like this to literal artists. That makes no sense. Apart from the AI thing and the bad thing and the corporate and blah blah blah, everything, it's just a bad business decision, probably. I've heard so many people saying that they're not going to buy from Hobbii again, and I'm one of those people. I would also advise checking in with your own principles and see if your job still fits your own principles. I think that's important to being happy and not dying of stress early on. I know that a lot of people don't care, but I care. I want to be happy, and I want other people to be happy as well. Anyhow, that's not important. It's very sad to see all these yarn stores creating problems for themselves that literally contradict what they're saying or what they're trying to represent with their business. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just really bad. And I know that AI is a huge part of this with a lot of yarn stores and stores in general, but I felt like highlighting the Hobbii thing, especially because they have such a big platform and they're such a big yarn store. If they set the example of not doing this, that would have been great, but they don't, obviously. I would love it if the people making these decisions took some more time thinking them over. I don't feel like they did, but they probably did, but I don't know how you come to this outcome then. For any of the situations we talked about today, I would love to hear about your positive yarn store experiences, also the negative ones, but I feel like a little bit of positivity here is very nice. What I love about one of my own nearby yarn stores is that the owner always asks me what project I'm going to be making with the yarn that I buy. That makes me very happy. She genuinely cares, and she always asks the other people as well, and it's very inspirational and very great, and I love it. Thank you for watching. If you like my little video, please press the wonderful shiny like and subscribe buttons, and then I will see you next time. Ciao!